Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amanda Weinstein,
I'm Rachel Vindman.
I'm Jasmine Clark.
and this is a Suburban Women Problem. It's pretty obvious the GOP has a suburban women problem, and we're here to talk about it.
I know it's only been a week, but I feel like a lot has happened in the last week. I really don't know how to describe it. It's just feels like the world is kind of imploding right now. I don't know.
I know for me, so we went to our synagogue and we had security out there. So we always have extra security measures when something goes on, just in case someone takes this to the extreme in America, which happened. There's already
It's,
enough loss of innocent life. There's no
yeah.
reason to take more innocent lives and no
hmm
reason to take more innocent lives anywhere. But just bringing it here is just heartbreaking that we would see,
Yeah.
a 6-year-old Palestinian boy in Illinois die because of a landlord and what he feels about Muslims. Like, the extremism has real impacts here, and it's just heartbreaking.
hmm
I just don't understand people. Like, I just don't understand why people are like this. And, war is bad enough, but like, why are people taking it to the extreme here in the United States? It just doesn't make sense to me.
I haven't slept much in the past week, I'll be honest. It's been, there's just so much weighing heavy on my heart and my mind. And as I said last week, I both lived in Gaza, worked in Gaza, lived in Israel for 3 years. So I'm very familiar with this area and with the people and the cultures there. And I've tried to write about it. It's been difficult to write about. Last week, I think I was still processing, and I just published something on my Substack. I'm going to be that obnoxious person that always talks about my Substack. You're welcome. I'm sorry, but
I love it.
it's this idea of like terrorism. It already like is meant to like scare us, right? And I mean, it's meant to. It affects. Over 1,300 people were killed in Israel. So obviously that's like a significant loss of life. But usually, I mean, 9/11, we saw a significant loss of life. But the after effects of terrorism are meant to, engender fear and confusion and, all those things that have the cumulative effect of getting into our decision making cycles. So we're like, should I do this? Should I not do this? And we don't know what to do. But I think there's another part of it is that because that weighs so heavy on us and it's exhausting. And then we can really like lose our humanity if we're not really keeping it in check.
Yeah,
And that's what happened with this little boy, I think, is just like a total loss of looking at other people as humans.
right.
Because when Ellie got home, I sent Ellie to school on Friday, even though there was like a global day of jihad. And totally respect my friends who made the decision to keep their kids home from school. I mean, Ellie's a little older. She's missed a lot of school. So I had to just take all these factors into consideration. But, I hugged her so tightly when she got home from school. And then I just tried not to let her see my tears, but I was just, my heart just went immediately to the mothers of Gaza and Israel. And like they don't get that relief, many of them.
Right.
They'll never have it, or
Right.
they're not going to have it for a long time. And that's the humanity that we have to keep. And if it's not our natural instinct, we have to override that and tell our brains, like, we cannot give into this. And we already know we are a nation so divided. So this shouldn't be a stretch for most of our listeners to see how, um, you know, these divisions and how deep they are, because we can witness it like at our local Walmart any day of the week.
Yeah, it's really tough. Here in Georgia, I don't know how unique this is, but it feels very unique. As a state legislator, I'm a part of a caucus that has both Jewish and Palestinian members in the same caucus. So you can imagine how difficult this has been for all of us because, as Democrats, we are a big tent party and we want to consider, the humanity of everyone. And that seems like an easy thing to do. But when emotions are high and when, things really horrible, scary, tragic terroristic things are happening, it's sometimes very easy for people to kind of decide I'm going to go into my factions. And so what ended up happening here in Georgia was I think that Republicans in our chamber felt like this was an opportunity to kind of capitalize on the fact that we have both Jewish and Palestinian people in the same chamber. And so they put out, or they were planning on putting out this extremely inflammatory statement. Starts out good, but then it kind of goes really skews one side and really denies the humanity of one side of the conflict. And I think the goal was, we do this and then Democrats have to fight it out. Or if they won't stand with us, then in campaign season, we get to say they stand with terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we decided was, they don't speak for us. And we have these two members that we care deeply for both of them. And we want to put out a statement that takes into account the experiences and what both of them are dealing with in this moment. We talked about our constituencies. The fact is, we represent Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and everything in between. And that needs to be taken into account. We stand against anti Semitism and we stand against Islamophobia, racism, and all the other things in between. Like, that's what our statement was meant to do. And, the truth is, to get the Jewish member and the Palestinian member together to work on a statement together, I think is a step in the right direction in recognizing the humanity of each other and the conflict in general. So I'm proud of us for what we did, but I hate that it basically came down to we have to do this so we don't get labeled terrorists if we don't say exactly the thing that someone wants us to say, or if we don't alienate one of our caucus members. So
I think that's important, and I think what you see is the dehumanizing leads to tragedies in many different ways, and I think that's something important that, we've pointed out before on the podcast, that when you do things like don't allow people to say gay or attack trans kids, like, we should expect more tragedies from this. So I know there was a book flagged in Alabama just because the author's last name had the word gay in it. It got flagged as something that shouldn't be in that, I know, in that library. And we have, again, a host of extremists, I know, in our school board in Hudson, running on this same book banning, like, just making inflammatory statements, of course, calling people, anyone who doesn't agree with them, pedophiles. And like, this inflaming of people does not lead us down a good path. And the extremism is part of this. And you just see it like, you would get chaos, begets more chaos. And I think you
Mm-hmm.
see the GOP doing that with the chaos around the House Speaker. Like, it's just more chaos.
Oh,
yeah.
but no, I'm sorry. Representative Dan Crenshaw of Texas said that's just what democracy looks like. It's
Chaos.
amazing that democracy never looked like
It is
that when
messy.
Nancy Pelosi
Right.
was Speaker of the House.
Or
Like,
anyone else, like
yeah.
literally like all this time, like what in the
Mhm.
world? Yeah.
It looks like the chaos that if I decide to not do anything on the weekends, but no one else in my family is capable of loading the dishwasher. So the chaos that like sort of evolves when the sink is overflowing, like, I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it just people live here, but usually there's someone to make sure and kind of control that so it doesn't get to like epic proportions. But they're okay with the entire United States and the world seeing their chaos. They have no problem with it, and they just want to excuse it. I'm like, yeah, that's
But I think
just because we live here.
it's chaotic and it is unfortunate because there are actual real consequences. So to them, I feel
Yeah.
like this is just a big show and it's theatrics and they get to be like, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that. In the meantime, there's real things happening all around the world that they need to actually be doing real work
Some that they
And
ostensibly support. They keep saying they support
yes,
Israel, but they cannot, until they elect a speaker, they can't give anything to
do
Israel or
anything. Yes,
anyone
exactly.
else. And they're like, we can't do it because we have to go through this process. And then in the next breath, they will blame the Democrats. It's just astounding to me. I will never not be shocked by it. Have
It's
you guys
almost
seen them
impressive.
say that?
Yes, it's
It
almost impressive how everything ends up being our fault. I'm like, we're literally just like sitting over here chilling, waiting on y'all. I mean, we got a speaker. We just need 5 of y'all to, kind of just have a level head about this and realize that we got to get some work done and come on over to our side. And, it'll be a year. Hakeem Jeffries will be the speaker and hopefully beyond that. But, at this point, like, it's not our fault. We have a person and our entire caucus is behind that person. So,
That's not
do you think that
but
will
it's
happen?
always our fault.
Do you
I
guys think that we could see a Speaker Jeffries, that we could peel off 5 Republicans and they would?
I wish we could, but they're being threatened,
no.
like for
Mhm.
real threatened by like Fox News
Thank
and other
you.
people as like, why are you not
Sean
falling
Hannity.
in
Can I just
line? Yeah.
say, okay, so for real, this is like the anniversary of Alex receiving his subpoena. Somewhere around in here, I have to look up the date. I don't have it memorized. But you know what? Here's just a pro tip. You tell whatever your smart speaker is, you tell it to play Won't Back Down. You start your day off that, and you just go and do the right thing, and you
Right.
leave it alone, because they are all hat and no horse. They're not going to do a darn thing to these people. They'll give empty threats, and those are scary, and I agree. And maybe they'll be primaried and they might lose their seat, but isn't it worth it to do the right thing?
I mean, I think that's a funny thing because if anything goes wrong, I feel like they blame the Democrats because they know we're the only party that does something. So if something
Yeah,
happens,
I
it
know.
must be a fault, but which is a
Easy scapegoat,
we
right?
know Republicans don't do anything. So if something happens, like it couldn't be their fault because they don't do anything. They're just out there like talking and causing chaos, which I mean, I guess that does do something, but they wouldn't admit to any of that.
And maybe you guys heard that or saw, you know, people just don't have enough bad words to talk about uh, what they think of Congress. And, same dude. But it is really disheartening because I think, we've all talked about this before, at a time when we need people to engage in order to save democracy. We also then have to convince people to participate in a process that they find repugnant. And
Yes.
I not the process, but just the result of it. The whole it is. I mean, it's part elections are part of the process, or just the whole thing that they find just because no one can go to their jobs and act like this and still keep their jobs.
Right.
And that, or if you're the owner, you couldn't go and you wouldn't have a successful business if you behaved this way. And everyone knows that, but we pay these people a lot of money to go and
And not do their job.
not do anything
Literally.
except for the
Not do
Democrats.
it.
And then they do something and then they're blamed for, what they do, but they're the only ones actually doing something. So it's a
Oh,
really
I
sticky
think that's
wicket.
so all of this chaos, I think some of you're gonna start automatically ignoring demographics if they're not being extreme, right? So if women are and this is not to suggest go out and be extreme, but it is important to realize, like, who we might be missing in this conversation when we're talking so much about the chaos and extremism, we're missing the opinions of women, and we're a significant part of the conversation, or should be. And we're a significant part of the economy. And it's important to realize that all of this chaos means that there's people out there with valuable opinions and valuable thoughts that we're just completely ignoring.
Exactly. I think that's the goal. I think the goal is to, be the squeaky wheel and getting all the oil. Meanwhile, like the people who are just living their lives, going day by day, driving our economy, making sure that we have stores to go to, food to get, just so many things, childcare, all these different things. They're just largely ignored because they're so busy working. They don't have time to, put on a show and do all this ridiculousness that's going on. So,
And
Oh,
I think that's a real problem, as we've talked about many times, of messaging from the Democratic Party, because they just kind of want to go and do the things and then have people see the things and be okay with that, and just, kind of this knowledge that, hey, we're electing good people. I have faith that they're doing good stuff, and kind of leave it at that. So they miss out on the messaging, the dumbed down messaging, let's be honest, of most Republicans. They don't engage in thoughtful conversation or thoughtful dialogue. But it is problematic that we, often do not talk about the ways that we are making people's lives better. But
I think
I
that's
do
it,
such an
think I
important
agree
point.
with that.
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I will probably do 4 or 5 community events a week, and if I remember to take a picture, or if someone else in the room took a picture and they send it
mhm,
to me, then I have something to post. But most of the time, I'm so busy doing the thing that I haven't taken the time to pull my camera out and take a picture of me doing the thing so I can post about doing the thing. And then
mhm.
the people who were there know I did the thing, but there's this whole larger audience out there that are like, oh, if she's not posting about all these amazing things that she's doing, it's probably because she's doing nothing. And it's like, it's the opposite. I'm doing the thing. And because I'm doing it, I'm not posting about it. So I don't know.
But I love
I'm
Jasmine,
guilty. I
I
need
know
to do better.
you. Jasmine, I know you and Rachel. Part of why I love this podcast is that we are talking about real issues that really affect women and families and children in our country. And I think talking about those effects is really important of how all of this stuff really matters to us, which I know both of you ladies do all the time.
We still have our vote, and we, like, so we have power. And I think that's another thing that the chaos is meant to do, is to make us feel hopeless, to take that, optimism on the American dream, the, possibility of self-governance, all that. It's meant to chip away at our faith in our system. And yeah, then we're the ones that are actually causing the problem when we don't
Mhm.
vote. It's they're putting the ideas in our head, but it's the people who don't vote, the people who give up on that opportunity, who forfeit that opportunity, that really, that's what causes the biggest problem. Because
That is such a good
yeah,
point. All of the chaos and the extremism, it really disempowers everyday people. And that is the goal,
yeah,
to
for sure.
disempower us, to quiet
Hmm.
us, to make sure our voices aren't heard. And it's something that we have to make sure that we push back on, and that we feel empowered, and that everyday people are empowered, that they have a voice, they have a vote, and it matters.